Oh, I read it. Oh. All right, so we're good to go.
So acting for Jason Zudi until he arrives, we are at a quorum and will call this meeting to order for the Italian Village Commission of October. Next hearing will be on Tuesday, November the 9th, 4 p.m. And we will swear in staff now. This afternoon, staff, will you give your name and testify and confirm that you will testify in the best of interest?
This is Jacqueline Lehman, Assistant Historic Preservation.
Terrific. And our chairman is here. We'll do a roll call and then we'll be ready to roll. We'll start with the ladies first.
Lauren McGann. Paige Schmidlin. Brooke Michael Smith.
Jason City.
And David Cohen. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Sam Lake. It's kind of day.
There's no public forum tonight.
No public forum.
Do we need to do anything about the work safety guidelines, or we are all masked?
I think we're set. If you wanted to read it out, you're welcome to. But it is, posted on the agenda.
Want to state that we're all complying, and it appears that all applicants and people testifying tonight are masked.
Perfect.
So, last minutes meetings, I will make a motion to approve those minutes. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Ready to get through the rest of it?
Yes.
Thanks for handling all the early business.
We just need staff approvals.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Motion two.
No, you can.
All right. So we have staff approval starting on page.
Page maybe.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion to approve staff approved applications? Okay,
And I will second.
sounds good. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And I will read for abstentions. 673 Kerr Street. Hold on. There we go. 5965 East Russell. 248 East 4th. 176, 178 East 2nd. This is really jump. So there we go. Looks like 1090 Say. 252 Detroit, all abstained from that one. 822 Kerr. 93 Lincoln. Let's see.
That was the last one.
That's the last one, yeah. Okay, any abstentions we missed out there from anybody?
Just the one.
That's fine. Okay, sounds great. With that, let's go back to the top. Staff, do you have anything else you want to share with us before we dive in?
I think we're all set.
All right, great. So let's do 281 East Greenwood.
Oh, the applicant ahead.
We have an applicant for 281 East Greenwood.
John.
John Martinez, iHomes. All right, well, let's skip that one for now. See if the applicant makes it. So number 2 is 807 Hamlet. All right, sir, will you raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Yes, Kareem Hammond.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
I do.
All right, great. Staff?
Okay, this application for demolition and new construction. approved at the June 2021 IBC hearing, and that was under application number IB-21-06-021. The applicant is now coming back for some variances that they discovered that they do need, and that is section 3332.05A4, and that is the lot is required to be 50 feet wide. The proposal is to maintain the existing 27.4-foot wide lot, which is an existing nonconformity. There's section 3332.26, which is the minimum side yard permitted to reduce, the proposal is to reduce the minimum side yard from 3 feet to 2 feet along the eastern property line for the existing house. And this is also an existing nonconformity. And then finally, there is section 3332.28G. No carport or detached private garage shall exceed 15 feet in height. And then general height, they need the variance for, and that was approved as part of the architecture, I believe, at the June 2021 hearing. So the application for demolition and new construction was previously reviewed and approved. So staff does recommend approval of application IB-21-10-010-807 Hamlet Street as submitted, with any clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of the certificate. That staff recommendation is based on the fact that the work is generally consistent with the standards for new construction and Italian village guidelines.
Okay, Kareem, anything to add?
No, nothing to add there. Thank you for that. Just going for the variances on this project.
Okay, let's go through the commission and see who has any questions or thoughts. Anybody have concerns or questions on this one?
I do not.
Okay, well, I'm content to take the staff's recommendation on this one. Can I hear a motion to recommend approval of the variances to the visa or the BZA?
Motion to approve 21-10-10.
Okay, so that's a motion for recommendation to the BZA. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Well, good luck at the BZA. All right, moving forward to 35 East Hubbard. We have the wood companies here. You get settled in, if you could raise your right hands, and if you state your name for the record.
Derek Bonar. Eric Zartman.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability today.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. First up.
Okay, 35 East Hubbard Avenue is also coming here for a recommendation. They noted that there are no changes to the previously approved design for this project. The variances include section 3312.25 maneuvering. So under this section, every parking space shall have sufficient access and maneuvering area. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow maneuvering for stacked parking spaces over and through parking spaces. And then secondly, there's section 3312.29 parking space. Under this section, a parking space shall be a rectangular area of not less than 9 feet by 18 feet, exclusive of any driveway or other circulation area. It shall be accessible from the street, alley, or maneuvering area. It shall be designed for parking a motor vehicle. The applicant is requesting the variances to reduce the minimum length of parking spaces to be 16 feet and to allow stacked parking spaces to count towards the total number of provided parking spaces. So this project was last reviewed at the August 2021 IBC hearing, and that is under application number IB-21-08-009. At the September 28th business meeting, the commission asked how many parking spaces are going to be stacked. The applicant clarified that 16 of the 50 spaces will be stacked, noting that only 47 spaces are required for the project. And the applicant further clarified that the stacked spaces are for single units only. Staff recommends approval of application IB-21-10-011 35 East Harvard Avenue, with any clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuing some certificate. And that recommendation is based on that the work is generally consistent with the standards for new construction and Italian village guidelines.
Okay, great, thanks. A long time no see. What thoughts do you have to share with us in addition to what staff has already shared?
I think staff covered everything. It's just to point out, it's a private building for apartments and office, so it'll be kind of shared within that purpose, those stack spots. It won't be a public use of those stacking spots.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about this last time. And, I think the main issues for me that allow me to be in favor of this, where, it might not be the same case in other issues, is that it's all under one ownership control. They sort of have to internally manage how those spaces stack. They are looking for spaces in excess of what's required. It's really just a practical element for them to be able to put more spaces in there, which then they'll have to sort of manipulate through their own tenant management system. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's additive to the overall project, and it will function on their terms internally and shouldn't have an additional burden on the exterior of the building based on the fact that they're internal. So with that, other comments?
Did you make a motion?
I didn't. I was just clarifying why I was in support of this particular one rather than where somebody might be trying to do this in a situation where you have to organize it.
I appreciate the comments you made. I would just like to say, I'm glad I don't have to leave it in block exactly at the same time. And
I hear you.
4 other owners want to get out of that all in one time. But, having taken your points that it's all under one ownership, it's not a public place solution, etc.
Other thoughts on this one? Okay, can I get a motion for recommendation of these variances?
So moved.
And a second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, are we just recommending variances tonight? That's all we have on the agenda? Going pretty quick. Okay. So, I didn't see anybody come in, so let's go to number 4, which is Short North Alliance. Hello, will you please raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Caitlin Dunn?
And you promise to tell the truth and the best of your ability in your testimony today.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, staff.
Okay, for the application at the right of way at 4th and High Street, the proposed work is to install permanent sidewalk artwork outside Stonewall Columbus. The proposed artwork would be a minimum of 40 feet away from all pedestrian curb ramps. It would be roughly 3 feet wide by 120 feet long per the submitted documentation. The installation would use slip-resistant thermoplastic with types specific to sidewalks per the submitted documentation. So this application was previously reviewed at the August 2021 Italian Village Commission hearing minutes. And then from the feedback, the applicant has revised the application to remove the paint from the brick. And then the September 20th business meeting, the commission noted they appreciated the removal of the proposal to paint the brick building, noted that the proposed painting appears to be an art installation as opposed to an advertisement and therefore appropriate. Noted they would want to have a check-in on the upkeep of the material since it has not been previously used in such a high foot traffic area as the Short North sidewalks. The applicant has confirmed that the project is required to be considered as a 1-year pilot as part of the 903 permit, and that public service requires that any damage during the 1-year period must be addressed within the 10-day period they remove or repair. And so they have included a maintenance plan as part of their application materials. So staff recommends approval of application IV-21-08-007 right of way at 4th and High Street as submitted, with any clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. And that staff recommendation is based on that the work is generally consistent with the standards for alteration and the Short North design guidelines.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts for us today?
I don't think so. Betsy was at the business meeting and mentioned that there was some talk about if something catastrophic happened, how quickly we could remove it altogether. We did look into that and we budgeted for that. If something did happen, they can remove it in about 10 days and it would be completely gone. So we did have that contingency plan just in case. We're continuing to work really closely with the city on an MOU too, given this is a new pilot program for them too. And we're making sure everything's zipped up there as well. And unfortunately, David, we did look at that gray siding, and it's just really hard with paint on there right now. It's not something we're completely opposed to doing at this point, but with this project, we wanted to keep it moving along with the sidewalk.
All right, thoughts, comments? Anybody want to start?
I will be making a motion to approve this because I think Stonewall listened to us very carefully from the last full meeting when the concept was brought. We appreciate that, so let's move forward. And I appreciate the 1-year test as for other places, just so that suddenly every sidewalk doesn't end up a flowing design competing with. Let's make sure that we're doing this one commission as a test for 1 year, then we might approve others.
Yep, I got you. That's great. Other thoughts out there?
I have nothing to add other than I wish you could use the gray, but understand, that there might be some trick to that. So I think it's a very nice concept.
Paige?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see it. I think it's a really fun project as well as being like a test for children. So.
Good, Mom.
I just want to echo what David said, and I appreciate that you're willing to do a 1-year trial, see how this kind of works. And I'm interested to see how the trafficscapes surface system
Yeah.
wears.
Yep.
On X Street.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. And I do want to reiterate, I think, I was the one who mentioned, I really appreciate that it is an art installation and not an ad. So I think that's important to note if, we don't want to escalating competition of individual businesses trying to put their signage on there. This is clearly an additive art element to the overall program in the neighborhood. It's really, really cool.
And I'd be remiss to say, we selected Lisa McClymont, who's a local Columbus-based artist, and she did all of these designs, and she's working with us on the final implementation of the thermoplastic.
Awesome. Great. Okay,
So the motion is made.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thanks for coming in.
And then one
Appreciate
other
it.
thing, just to take back, how about banners on the gray side?
That was
Don't
brought
want to
up.
paint, let's do the flag banners or something like that. So please don't take it that it's not an opportunity. It's just a different technique.
We'll continue this conversation with Stonewall for sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, 47 to 53 East First Avenue.
Is this conceptual?
I think this is into regular.
Okay, because this is really a significantly different form than I've seen before.
Yes, that's true. It is different. Just want to note that the applicant has been sworn in on our previous application, so we don't need to do that. And I'll turn it over to staff and then we can start our discussion, figure out where we go.
Okay, so for 4753 East First Avenue, this application is proposing to construct a 2.5-story townhouse building with the height to be 32 feet 3 inches. The proposed design will require a lot split in combination between 47 and 53 East First Avenue. Existing structures on East First Avenue will remain. The new building proposed shall be 33 feet 10 inches, feet maximum to the peak of the highest ridge of the duplex. 2 dwelling units are to have 2-car private garage, access from the proposed private drive. So this application was last heard at the September 2021 Italian Village Commission hearing minutes, and the commissioner comments are included in that staff report. At the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted that the revised site plan looks like it may work and that having access straight across from the alley and through will allow cars to get in and out in a reasonable way. That the permeable pavers answers the permeability question. The commission appreciated the industrial look as the property is on the alley and is not attempting to be something it's not. So they appreciate the simple approach. The commission noted that the building base does appear somewhat heavy in proportion, again discussed at this meeting. That there's understanding that the base will also function as a balcony and to know that is helpful. Overall, the application appears to be moving in a positive direction. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted revised drawings, and those changes include lintels at the 2nd story are now proposed as precast concrete, which have been changed from the initial application of fiber cement. The lintels and sills at the 1st story are now proposed to be precast concrete, changed from previous brick. Siding at the 2nd story is proposed to be brick, which was changed from the previous fiber cement siding. and the brick-built courses have been added in between the lower stories. So the concern about the parking for the historic property to the north at 53 East First Avenue may still need to be addressed, and required variances for the project will need to be submitted. So staff recommends continuing application ID-21-09-020 4753 East First Avenue to allow the applicant time to make any necessary modifications to the application following commission review of the new design and submit any required variances. And the basis for the staff recommendation are the 3116.12 standards for new construction.
Okay, great. Before you get into your comments, I just wanted to verify with staff, is page 8 of the PDF what is the newest, the updated submittal? Looks like it has more brick on it than the one that's further down.
So there should be a title page that separates.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay, good. So that was it.
Is the previous iteration. I just want to have that included so you can see the changes. And then all the newest ones should be right at the top.
Okay, great. Yeah, so page 8 is it. Okay, thank you. All right, that's it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, based on, our last meeting, we spent quite a bit of time incorporating your constructive feedback. Thank you for that. Just to add briefly, some of the main concerns were maneuvering on the alley. So we provided the private access drives there to take that pressure off the alley. We think that provides ample amount of maneuvering for those units. We were also able to provide a parking space there, an additional one because a concern was we were removing 2 parking spaces. So we will now only need to contribute 1 to the Short North Parking Fund. In terms of the design, we essentially had to start from scratch here based on our last formal submission. That being said, we did take the more industrial approach, and we took cues from Prescott, the neighboring project there that got recently approved. We incorporate similar height, similar scale, and the first floor being used sort of as a garage with the vestibule area, and incorporate also similar materials and components from the properties or the houses on First Avenue. So essentially trying to create a more cohesive project that functions more properly in terms of maneuverability and just being incorporated into the neighborhood more appropriately. So we welcome your feedback here on this one.
Okay, sounds good. Who would like to begin today?
I was not able to attend the business meeting, so this is my first chance to comment on this. And I appreciate that it is down to only 2 units on. When we started, this was 4. This has certainly moved in the right direction. I think it's an interesting solution in general. There are 2 things that are standing out that I want to comment on tonight. First one is, how essential are the chimneys?
Not at all.
I would say absolutely remove them. That you say you're talking about a more industrial look, and yet chimneys are more residential. It doesn't seem to fit, and particularly not this elevation, but one that shows the 2, that one. I would also suggest that there's probably no need for the peaked ceiling or the peaked roof either. If you're really going more industrial, why not just have it flat? Don't compete with the other lower roof, since that's not in line with the other historic on one end and historic on the other end. You have these 2 things that are just getting bigger in the middle. So let's say take the chimneys off, lower a flat roof situation, or a much more reduced roof than the one that we're seeing now are very important in order to get my vote for approving this. Then I'm going to come back to my still biggest issue. Could we go to the site plan, please? You have not addressed parking spaces that were granted to 45, 47, and that's not a curb cut on First Avenue. If you're thinking of ever trying to reactivate that, there was a handicap for the crosswalk to the sidewalk on the other side. And I've already watched in the last 2 weeks, cars parked in the front yard of 45 and 47, which figure out a way to get them behind the existing 45, 47, but not in the front yard. And the parking is there now. We've gone through this. We spent probably 6 meetings going through this before you acquired this property. And now you're taking it away, and I know what's going to happen. And First Avenue has gotten to be a disaster for parking already. It's dangerous. There's accidents, there's damaged cars for street parking. So this still has not, I can't see how we're going to approve this when we're taking parking spaces away that we previously approved only a couple of years ago. Anybody thought about taking the building and push it down south and put the parking so that it could possibly be shared with 45, 47?
I hear what you're saying.
Now, I appreciate though that you did line up the entrance right off the alley, and that's important, but I'll bet it could still curve and flip the building down and put the parking back in the center, very much the way the brick pavers are there now, if you look. Okay, so I'm definitely only voting a continuation of this. It's still not there.
I appreciate all of David's comments and agree with them, particularly the site comments, which I remember hearing those the first time we saw this, and David pointed out to visit that site just to see how tight it actually was, and I did do that, and I would agree with his suggestions to maybe at least study flipping the building so that you could try some shared parking. The chimneys, I agree with that. I too have concerns with the base. It just feels almost too elaborate for the style of house that you're trying to go for. And again, I think perhaps changing the roof to a flat roof might help that, but if there was some way to maybe de-emphasize the base, maybe changing the brick color or changing the enclosure on the balcony might de-emphasize and make it less formal. It seems, rather than being industrial, it feels very formal to me. And that's all I have to add.
Okay, Brooke?
Yeah, taking,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
Brooke, I'm gonna make you do it.
I'll do it again.
I was gonna just comment on kind of the same things about the base. Yeah, I think it just feels very unfamiliar to the warehouse vernacular. Normally, if there's any kind of step up, it's more of that like loading dock height or something. It's also a different materiality than the bulk of the building. I don't know, maybe messing with that material could help with that front porch situation. And then the only other thing that the other commissioners didn't already comment on was kind of the front door presence that's lacking. And I don't know, maybe if messing with the front door in that front porch and seeing where that could lead you could help with that heaviness and like the formalness that Brooke was talking about from the front facade.
I appreciate Commissioner Cook bringing up the parking, because I remember that as well, once brought it up, and it was a really big nightmare, so. I want to echo what everyone else has said and see what mirroring the property would look like and making that a shared access. And I also agree with everything about making the house a little bit more industrial. Right now, it feels like you're kind of sitting between two styles, and one is really residential and one is industrial, and it looks confusing. So I would say just move more industrial. That's to whatever.
Yeah, just a couple other quick things from my end. Yeah, I do appreciate that you're moving toward the industrial direction. I think that is the right way to go. I agree with the comments that have been said with regard to the structure. The one thing I did want to note is there are a couple things that maybe just like little rendering details, but I really like, so I hope that they were more intentional than not. Like, I kind of like these rounded planters to sort of give it a little bit of a modernist feel and things like that. And, you know, I sometimes renderers just put that in for fun, but I do actually kind of like that vibe. If there's a way to maybe tie that back in, since you're being a little theoretically playful with the industrial idea, maybe that's an opportunity to kind of crush those genres. The flat roof and everything everybody said makes a lot of sense to me. I want to talk about the site plan for a second, because I mean, I've been a big advocate for lining that driveway up, and I am sympathetic to exactly what a lot of the commissioners are noting. One thing that'd be interesting, if we do continue this staff, that I'd love to understand a little bit better, is that, you know, we do have a parking in lieu of fee now, which takes us out of sort of doing that parking, figuring out that parking calculation. That being said, I want to make sure that however that's calculated isn't sort of working around the way that typically works, in that there were two existing spots, at least two, that were functioning on that site. And if those are being removed, you know, it's sort of, or for, or whatever it was, whatever the minimum was required. If the minimum that was required was on a lot and then that lot's removed, how does that parking mechanism work to whether we have to then compensate in order to make up for spots that had existed in a place where they were required, while also then accommodating the spots for the new site? So I just want to understand how that works. And some of that's out of our hands, but as long as we understand the mechanism, I think I feel more comfortable about how that all laid out. I think, you know, I'd be open to the option that David discussed, if it can work, of still lining up that alley, but creating an access drive that, you know, that kind of wrapped its way around if it was in that pervious material, and potentially coupled with some sort of a screening mechanism that was right along the alley. I think it's gonna be hard to do. And I'd be really concerned if we just flip the whole site plan, because I think we're right back in that same problem with physical access to this site based on the tough alley condition, to get people reasonably in and out of there. But, you know, again, if it can be done, it can be done. I'm okay with it. So I think that is a number of suggestions for you without the ultimate solution, which I know we've been in this problem with you before. It's just a very difficult site. So with that, other comments by the commissioners before we turn it back over to the applicant? Dave, do you have anything else to follow up?
No, again, I feel like we've gotten ourselves into a really prescriptive situation, which isn't typically the role of the
Right.
Italian village. But if you would allow me just a minute to offer, when we talk about flipping this down to this side, doing this detail, if notching this and starting the driveway back would give us the dimension we need to back these cars out or come in. Again, remember, this is a one-way alley. You can't come in this way. And that, by extending this, would allow the parking spaces. So you wouldn't have taken the 4 away. You'd actually be able to show a plus number awarded. Otherwise, I think it isn't going to happen that way, because you're taking 4 away.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So I think it needs to study that maybe the approach to it is recessed in where that lot line is before you do a lot split.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay. I think we've been redundant. Should,
Let's see what the applicant has to say.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for your feedback. Definitely a very difficult and intricate site. We're more than willing to incorporate those design changes, of course. In regards to the parking, I guess if you guys could provide a little bit more context. You said you dealt with this for a while before. You know, the existing parking there, it serves just the 45 and 47 East First building. And during our initial talks and even performing any due diligence on the site, we worked with the command for City of Columbus for the Short North Parking Fund, and came to an agreement there that there's certain compensation required for every parking space that's removed. So that was a key determinant in how we were able to orient the site and utilize it as feasible. That being said, I guess if you could elaborate more on, one, the context of the parking.
Yeah.
It seems like there's history to the site.
Yeah, we can explain it real quickly. Basically, just for a period of well over a year, there were people, tenants of this building were pulling right up over the curb and parking directly in the front yard. And so we had the building owner come in and through, a series of code violations and complaints, he finally agreed that he would put a planting area in the front to prevent his tenants from pulling up there, which I think was briefly in and not very well maintained. So, and I'm talking about the front of the building on First.
There's a picture in the upper corner if you want to be specific about it. The other side, the other corner.
Yeah,
Those four little boxwoods right there line up with where the curb cut is that people were driving in.
Right.
If you go look at it right now, you can see the tread marks of people are going up over the sidewalk, around the bushes and parking in the front yard.
But it's been a turf yard, not a driveway, for at least the last 20 some years. But just in the course of a few years ago, people just started kind of with ad hoc parking at will in the front yard. Not a good situation.
Lower corner, you said existing parking, you're showing that there's a blue car there. That is 4 spaces that are done with brick pavers because we had that issue not being asphalted. But those were at that time only for the 45, 47,
That's correct.
and maybe the red brick next door, the Victoria.
So that's the context. And I guess from the, a little bit extra context is that at least when those bushes were initially planted and those spots were initially in place, people weren't parking in the front again for a period of time. It seems like it's regressed again.
Okay, thank you for that. And, it's unfortunate we sort of have to face the repercussions of that. Certainly that it's not our intent to utilize the site like that at all. That being said, we were able to retain 1 parking space. I guess, are you guys adamant about us finding a way to retain 4 parking spaces to be shared with the existing buildings?
Well,
I guess, is there?
I think to be fair, I think that's a suggestion here, but in reality, we do have a sort of the parking arrangements in the short north based on fee and lieu take some of that out of our hands, but what I was talking about before is having staff clarify what that actual requirement is based on the fact that there were spaces that were being used for a different site, which has now been split off into your site. So I'm just not exactly clear because usually that's not the case. It's a much more cut and dry situation where it's an individual standalone site and you're just looking at the number of parking spaces you need by code and how many you're providing and doing a calculation. Whereas here, it feels like there's an interim step. Does that make sense, staff? What I'm trying to suss out in this thing?
I think so. It's clarification about that. Because it might just be a continued problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that kicking the can down the road situation where it's like, oh, this didn't work, and then you're borrowing from one and you're replacing it, but then if those aren't actually being used by those old units and only by the new units, then what happens to the same problem we had before? So I think we're just trying to figure out how we can remedy it. And in this particular case, as you mentioned, it is a bit unfortunate, but this has a demonstrated circumstance that was, in constant violation of that front yard parking. So it's not just kind of a speculation on our part. It was a real issue that we had to deal with.
So I guess just to conclude here, you guys would prefer we leave the curb cut as it is and ideally find a way to have a sort of shared access parking between the existing and proposed buildings.
I think David had another option as well. I just wanted to make sure that doesn't get lost.
Was that to move the curb cut altogether?
Yeah, what you talked about is doing it in some way where it was recessed back in order to essentially create some kind of an entry apron, if you would, in pavers that would increase your maneuverability. But again, it's hard for us to get over prescriptive and you can't like physically draw on the site, but that was the idea David had. That to get lost. I do think that the alley lining it against the alley is theoretically the best for access to this site. But David's trying to solve an additional problem and maybe, borrow a little bit from your property in order to create an entry point that makes it a little less than ideal for access, but potentially improves for a parking situation. So that's the balance, I think, if I'm don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay, so just to clarify, you're proposing we add another curb cut?
There are two things that we mentioned, and this is not our job to actually tell you what to do. This is what we're trying to clarify. As I said before, I advocate for making it easy to get in and out of the site. Being across from the alley seems to be the best way to do that. That is an option that you could maintain, and we can move forward. David suggested another option where you may be able to create a different curb cut, not a second curb cut, a different curb cut that was recessed enough from the alley with some kind of front courtyard that would allow better maneuverability, that would then have the building be slid to the south and have your area for parking in the north that would share parking. So, yeah, I mean, without like physically drawing, I'm not sure if I can describe it better, but if somebody else wants to take a shot at it.
Okay. So regardless, the motion would be to continue this application.
I think so. Is there any other information though that either the applicant or staff needs from us today in order to be able to? Anything else that the applicant needs to understand from our end as far as where we are?
No, I guess I'll connect with staff to get clarification on some of those parking items. I guess thank you again for your feedback on this.
All right, well, thanks. Sorry, I know it's a little frustrating on all sides, but we're getting there. So, can I have a motion to table? Or to continue, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to continue? All right, can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we'll get to, I don't think anyone came in. Did anyone notice anyone came in?
No.
Okay, so let's keep going down the agenda then. We are to 176, 178 East Second Avenue. Hello, sir. Will you state your name for the record?
Chadwick Flat.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon. Great, and that?
For 176 and 178 East Second Avenue. For this application, a code violation has been issued for work prior to review and approval. That work is to replace light fixtures. So at the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted that the style of light fixture may not be in keeping with the building style or vernacular, but noted that they could discuss further at the hearing. The commission asked for context photos of the home or fixture showing the rear area where the fixtures have been installed. And the commission asked to confirm how many light fixtures have been installed. So the new light fixtures are larger and more stylized than previous fixtures, so the commission may need to consider that. Staff recommends approval of application IB-21-10-012, 176 and 178 East Second Ave with conditions. And those conditions are just to make sure that the residential building number is clear and visible. The basis for the staff recommendation are the Italian Village Historic Guidelines about lighting on page 19, in which they advise to use simple contemporary fixtures, preferably located on the ceiling of a porch or beside the entry door, and also the standards of alteration, specifically numbers 3 and 12.
Okay, so what do you have, sir?
I don't have none. There was 4 lights total that we had originally replaced. 2 in the front, 2 in the back. 2 of them were working, 2 of them were not.
And you are asking to keep the same lights?
Yes.
Okay, has anybody seen this come by at night?
Certainly seen it, I've noticed it. We approved this. Would you promise that you go take the sticker off the side of the light fixture?
I can make that happen. Yeah, absolutely.
It is, I mean, this is nothing in our jurisdiction, but it is so bright. Like,
Right?
yeah, it is like, ugh. Like walking down the street, like the people I'm walking with, they're like, what is going on with that house? Why is it so bright? And I'm like, well, actually, we're reviewing those at the commission, so you should come here and comment. But none of them did, so.
Lower the wattage.
Well, I mean, that's not up to us.
I mean, yeah, we're open to doing, I mean, if you guys would prefer.
No, I mean, I certainly don't want to get in the business of,
Should the number be lower than the sign panel?
yeah, I think that's the, probably should get adjusted.
Move the address.
1, 2, 3, originally it's 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's down another one. This is part for emergency and safety, if
Sure.
an EMS truck needs to come or something other than a pizza truck. Yeah, let's say we're gonna take the stickers off the side, you're gonna lower the signage.
No, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to start dictating people's wattage at all. They're just really bright.
Yeah, and I think initially when it was super bright, there was a couple break-ins, so in terms of just trying to like lighten it up. But yeah, I mean, we can move that address lower. I will say there is another address number above each door. So there's multiple, but we can move that down, no problem, and then also address the light bulbs.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's just, that's not part
It's
of
a good
not part
example,
of
though, if you're coming from the street, you can't see it, so. that's
Sure,
the
yeah,
purpose of
yeah.
having them. So
Yep.
let's-
Yeah.
let's lower it.
Other comments or thoughts on this?
I do, but as it goes along with the light bulb wattage, you might look at changing the type of glass that's in the
Okay.
fixture to make it more milky, so you aren't seeing the outline of the light bulb itself.
Okay.
That'll help diffuse.
Okay, anyone care to make a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the lights that were not previously approved, with the understand the applicant will remove any stickers that are on the light, that the applicant will lower the number signs to a better height, and consider replacing the glass or diffusing the glass by adding 3M film to the glass, so you don't have to buy new glass, you just put the film
Yes.
on the glass and that would tone it down.
No problem.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, all those in favor? Aye, opposed, abstentions? All right, thanks all, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, number 7, 936 North High Street, burner building. Okay, sir, will you raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Bob Brisbillo?
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony as best as you can this afternoon?
Yes.
Great, and staff.
Okay, for 936 North High Street, the proposal is to install a co-location and wireless communication facility on the rooftop. The co-location will include antennas, microwave dishes via pipe and shed mount, and mounting equipment cabinets to the wall of the existing penthouse. The antennas will extend above the height of the penthouse to clear the edges of the building and provide coverage. For the applicant, the antenna height is the minimum necessary to avoid signal blockage. So at the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted that the proposed co-location appears to be minimal and is trying to match the adjacent color to help blend it visually. So staff recommends approval of application IV-21-10-013, 936 North High Street. If any clarifications, please submit to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. And that recommendation is based on that the work is generally consistent with the 3116.11 standards for alteration and Italian Village guidelines.
Okay, sir. What comments do you have for us?
I don't really have much. It's a new co-location on existing rooftop. We took great care to screen it and to minimize the visual impact to the surrounding neighborhood. And we support the staff's recommendation.
Great. I will say, I definitely appreciated the thoroughness of your application, in particular, the view sheds from different angles on the street. That is extremely helpful for us in trying to evaluate these. So with that, who would like to begin? Any thoughts on?
I was gonna say that, but I also really appreciate it. That was the first thing I thought of. And I also appreciate that it appears the finishes you've chosen are blending into what's already there. I have nothing to add. I would.
Yeah, Paige?
Yeah, I'll just agree with Lauren, and I've also approved.
Brooke?
I think it's fine.
David?
I'll just pass it. I am going to not approve this. If you think of the northwest corner of Fifth Avenue and High Street, I'm sorry, I don't have an exhibition or exhibit of that, but the thing is not concealed. It's an eyesore on the top of the building. This is one of the best infill buildings I think we have on the entire strip, and just to add more stuff to the top of it. So I apologize, but I just keep my opinion.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. The one thing I do like about this is the contrast with that. I know exactly the building you're talking about. It's like a cacophony of craziness up there. So this does, in my opinion anyway, blend in about as well as you can, and it's pretty well screened and set back, so I will be in favor of this one.
Apparently, it said in the business meeting, I think Jacqueline read that in the business meeting, there was comment about materials, color selections being more discretionary or discreet or blending in. Did you see a change from the business meeting?
Well, there are only a couple of us there, and I think that was honestly, we were talking about that before I necessarily got to the renderings. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think it was commenting that we appreciate that in the renderings, they are the same color as the screening up there.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve IB 21 10-013.
Okay, a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, since I know we don't have a unanimous here, let me call the roll. Lauren?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
David?
No.
And I will vote yes. So you're all approved.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
great. Thanks a lot. Okay, moving on to the next one. We are at 680 to 698 North High. All right, and once again, I will note that the applicant has been sworn in from a previous application this evening. So with that, I will turn it over to staff.
For 680 to 698 North High Street, the proposed work is to replace the existing windows with black Weather Shield Signature Series double hung aluminum clad wood windows, as well as to replace the existing balcony doors. Since the business meeting, the applicant has clarified that proposed windows are from the approved windows list after all. After touching base with the manufacturer, and staff has verified that the windows are from the approved list. The manufacturer Weather Shield has updated the product with minor changes, which requires them to update the model number. So the changes consist of a finish color change to a black finish color for the weather stripping, the head and sill fillers and jam liners. And so because of that change, the model number has changed from 8109 to 8120. And so staff will be needing to update the general approved windows list to reflect that model number change. So the applicant has confirmed that the windows have been previously installed at the following properties as well, including 40 East Lincoln, on Lincoln, or 93-6 North High Street, also known as the Bremer Building, as well as residential windows at the second floor and higher for that building at 9 Bubbles Ave, which is noted as the building behind and above Forno. And for that, the residential windows, including the second floor and higher, at 797 North Wall Street, which is known as Hubbard Park Place, for the residential windows around the entire property, and 939 North High Street, which is noted to be the same building as North Star, and the windows that were replaced were the residential windows at the second floor and higher. So staff recommends approval of application IB-21-10-014, 680 to 698 North High Street, with any clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. And that recommendation is should be based on standards for alteration 3116.11 and the short design options.
Okay, great. Anything else to add?
I think we covered it. We're not touching anything on the ground floor, so want to let those retailers and all that pretty old woodwork stay the same. So it's just the second and third floor, kind of around the whole building. And I think staff covered everything else. Here, we have any questions?
Okay, sounds good. Brooke, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. The door elevation that you're showing is a 3x7, and the doors in the building are 3x5 glass lights, it appears.
I think on one of these later pages, it's just a single door on the back and a double door on the back of the building. And that was, yeah, right there's a good picture of it. The two on the far left page there. That's just what the manufacturer has that they can closest get with the SDLs and the way that kind of aluminum product works. So I do think it's one light off, but it's as close as we could possibly get.
So you're gonna have 7 high on your lights on the doors rather than 5.
Correct. And I can confirm with the manufacturer if that's something they can do, but I know previously they told me that this was as close to matching as they could possibly make it.
I would just ask them about that. And are you replacing the transom windows above the doors?
The current plan is not to, but if it'll be kind of consistent with how rotted out the wood is and what's left.
Mhm. Are you have a lot of photographs of the wood casing around the windows. Are you replacing that wood?
It'll be like for like, other than any kind of, aluminum change to a clad product.
And then I have just one other question, and that's, I think, actually probably a more of a installation detail on it's page 2 of 24. The curved transom sits very far back from the double hung window.
Correct. There's a storm window that was put in the front. So what you're kind of seeing is the storm
That's the
window.
storm window.
The historic window is kind of in plane with the transom. It looks
Weird.
weird, yes. So we want to try to get it all in as much of the same plane as we possibly can.
Okay, all right. So those were my questions. I appreciate the effort. This is a lot of windows. A lot of window replacement, so.
Actually,
Kudos.
about the doors. Do you know if they're historic doors or if
They don't appear to be. Those particular doors do not. I don't think they fit with kind of the character of anything else. The building was renovated, to my knowledge, in the early 80s, so I'm guessing that's when they've been replaced, and they've got about that much wear on them.
okay, well, I was just looking at the sizing of doors. It looks like that's where you're getting the extra 2 lengths because you have 8-foot doors. And those look like 6-8 doors. So is that kind of,
I can confirm that and try to change those measurements. I know we were trying to stay historic with the stiles and rails that are on there, and not so much with the divided light patterns.
I think that's just where your transom would come in,
Okay.
so.
I can confirm that.
I would appreciate keeping the transoms or any way to keep the transom to short main door.
Yep.
Personally. And just kind of keeping that similar, because otherwise I think that's going to have a real effect on how that looks.
I agree.
That's.
Yeah, I agree with the other commissioners, and I think it's a great add to the building and will help with all the thermal comfort of the building as well, so it's awesome that it's being taken on.
No, I'm in favor. What I would like to do, Lauren, is follow up with what you suggested and make that part of the motion that this will remain the size and scale as it is today. For most of us, we remember this building was the start of the short north. It was where Rigsby's was. It was the first restaurant. It was the first building that changed the whole idea of the short north. So let's keep it just the way it is.
Well, I think when you look at page 9 too, that shows like a real frontal of everything, that 3rd floor door is gonna be really tall and skinny, and it's just gonna look out of place, I think, compared to all the windows. Just the configuration.
Said page 9.
Yeah, page 9.
Okay.
That's where the extra 2 lights, I think.
That's where it worked, the door would fill like the entire space versus just having a transom.
And your thought also is that fire stair door on the ending of a smaller size too, with the transom above it. It appears.
So I think it helps the scale.
Correct.
Okay,
All right, care to make a motion?
I think she
Maybe the
did.
last one.
I'll second it.
Okay, I move to approving, wait,
I think so, yeah.
okay. Move to approve, IV -21 -10 -014. With the understanding that the applicant will keep the transoms on the doors on the southeast
Elevation.
on the east elevation. And look into minimizing the grid pattern.
You said you were seconding?
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And
How soon do you think you'll do this project?
We're working through quotes and stuff now. It's trying to get all the tenants coordinated as well, so. Material lead time is like 18 months or 18 weeks right now too. So,
Yeah.
Just wouldn't start still.
Okay, 233 East First. As you get settled in there, if you can raise your right hands and state your names for the record.
Matt Negron.
Peter Scott?
And you promise to tell the truth to the best of your ability in your testimony this evening.
Dude.
All right, great. Steph?
Okay, for 233 East First Avenue. The application is proposing to install patio seating and dining on East First Ave and to modify a window at the parking lot. At the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted the proposed area appeared to have robust landscaping, acknowledging that further questions will likely come up from other commissioners at the hearing. I just want to know, I believe this might be the one that the applicant had asked to possibly switch landscaping, or it might be the one after from conceptual to approval, but we're going to keep this as conceptual for now, just so that since it's brand new, so the commission has a chance to take a look. But overall, staff recommends approval of application IB-21-10-015 233 East First Avenue, which is part of Jeffrey Park, with any clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. And that recommendation is based on the standards for new alteration 3116.11, as well as the 3116.13 standards for site improvements and in general Italian village guidelines.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, so Matt Negron with Thrive Companies, we're in the process of kind of revamping this whole community space on the first floor. And in that process, we saw a need to create some gathering space on the exterior. I know that one of the comments that were made last week, particularly by you, Jason, was to see some of the images of the landscaping along that side of the street. And I do believe we have some pictures of what's currently there. But our hope is in creating this outdoor space to give residents the ability to sit outside, as well as the art installation on the back. We are working with the CID in this area to create potentially opportunities within Jeffrey Park for art installations. And in that process, we've kind of earmarked this area along the parking on the south side of the building as an opportunity of where this could potentially take place.
Sounds good.
Let me know just a minute. Is this Who Farted?
It is not.
It is not.
Well, I find it.
It's next door.
Yeah, that's a little
Building.
confusing in that.
I mean,
that site
but
plan.
this plan, it's highlighting where Who Farted is.
Yeah, we worked through that.
They're page
for a couple
one.
minutes.
That's Who Farted.
Yeah, I think it's just outlining the whole building itself. So that building, the whole highlighted area includes both the gym, Who Farted. It's all one really one building. So it's not outlining specific. Most of the work is to the east side of the building, which we're showing. So or the north side, northeast side of the building. But Who Farted does not include it.
I'll just pick up real quickly on what I mentioned at the meeting and then turn it over to everybody else. My comments on the landscaping were not to say that we couldn't replace it. It was more along the lines like that. I believe that there is enough robust landscaping along the streetscape that we could lose a few of those areas between the sidewalk and the building and still have that overall feel, because it kind of repeats itself all the way down the street, and there are street trees. It's a pretty active pedestrian street. I think this opportunity to activate the exterior of the building is, I'm in favor of that idea, especially with all the efforts we're trying to make to accommodate some more year-round things happening. The one concern I would have, which I'm going to probably steal David's thunder on this one, is one thing we want to be very cognizant of is not just creating like plastic enclosed year-round spaces without understanding what that would be. So by saying that it's okay to have outdoor dining with a fence around it, what I'm not saying is then it's also okay to, put plastic around the whole thing and make it a little winter biodome for people to hang out as well. If you do want to do that, you could welcome to come back, but then we'd want to see a robust plan that included a more architectural solution. But as far as just being a patio space that you can use for, a good portion of the year, I'm totally fine with that. I think this is a reasonable solution to get that. So that's my take, but let's hear what everybody else has to say. So, paid viewer, meeting viewer, thoughts.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. The garage door that's being proposed, to the opening to the south, I guess. That tree that's currently in front of there, I'm just curious about the purpose for that garage door opening up to something that you are unable to walk out to, whereas suppose if it was potentially walking out to those patio spaces, it's used functionally as well. And if the tree itself will remain if the garage door is placed there.
Yeah.
Overhead door.
Sorry, you want me to respond?
Yeah, let's hear it, because
Yeah, we have no plans on removing any of that landscaping. I think the original thought was to bring some indoor, outdoor activity essentially and bring some fresh air into the space. But we have no plans right now to make any additional edits to that landscaping. And then to Jason, to your comment earlier, we are not making it this is a Three Seasons room. It's just to be that patio space.
Appreciate it. Let's hear what everybody else has to say. Lauren, do you have thoughts?
I appreciate Paige bringing the door to attention. I guess I just don't understand it. As far as opening to a space that you can't really walk out of. I mean, I appreciate bringing fresh air into a space, but there are other ways to do it. Yeah, but it makes me feel like maybe in the future that might lead to doing something else, like removing the tree and doing, activating that outdoor space. So I'd rather just see them all at once instead of in steps. That's all I have to say about it.
Agreed on the overhead door. Didn't make sense to me. In fact, I thought I was totally missing something on that. It just didn't make sense. The only other comment, and this is just a comment, is that the furnishings on the patio feel like the bar height seating feels like it needs a more active environment than what this particular street feels like. Like it wants to be more of a high street, front street kind of environment rather than just a 6 foot wide sidewalk path. But again, I like furniture, so that's just a comment. Other than that, I think the solution is fine. It just feels aggressive on that little sidewalk.
David?
All right, here we go. Let's go to positive. I think the graphics on the south side, I believe that's the south facade where you're talking about putting in the graphics, would be a great addition for a very short period of time in the hallway. I'm looking back at that guy in the green shirt back there, or the pale shirt. You had a nice graphic in the hallway and suddenly all the walls gotten painted black. I mean, I don't know what happened to that. Well, that'll save that. So I'm all in favor of this side and this improvement. However, as a resident of East First and watching what has happened with the ice cream store on the corner, the northwest corner, and the vegan restaurant on the southwest side with all of their trash, people throwing trash, there's no trash receptacles and everything. Explain to me, where is the food coming from that these people in these outdoor spaces, why do they need outdoor spaces when every one of the buildings they've built have balconies or terraces, or they're all on their own apartment? Why would somebody walk to sit here if you don't have, or am I missing it? Who's doing the bar service? Who's doing the food service? Is that where you're headed? You're turning this into a restaurant or a bar or an extension of Who Farted? Because they already have their patio on the west side of the building already. Almost every morning I go to the gym, there's garbage all over the street. You can say that's an operations issue, but why are we building more pockets that are just gonna generate stuff left or be empty? I don't get the purpose of it at all. And I don't want to see our residential streets turn into food vendors. We already know what's happened on High Street already, what's happened. I guess I just don't see the point of it at all. You've got terraces in every condo or apartment that you have built. Are people hanging out there? What do they need to go here for?
So if you guys want to kind of address those last few comments, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, so I'll address your first comment on the interior hallway. So that was a surprise for us as well. We had a massive miscommunication with the painter that was supposed to just paint.
Oh, no, it
vestibule.
wasn't be covered up?
It was not supposed to be.
Oh, it was
covered
almost
up.
brand new.
So we're trying to talk through, which this is not a cheap fix, potentially trying to etch that area back out and maybe do it in white rather than just
Do it
doing
in reverse of it. That'd be fun. That'd be cool.
But yeah, that was totally unintentional, just total miscommunication. Also, to address so on the southern elevation, our initial intention was to potentially try to do a patio space on that side, but we realized how substantial that tree was in softening the southern side of that building. So we left that what you're calling the garage door in there to hopefully still create that idea of indoor-outdoor space.
I'd like to add, so we refer to it as a garage door. It is not a garage door, it's a sliding window system. So it's really mimics a storefront system that allows the basically slide up the panel onto the top panel. So it allows to open, it's like opening a window, it's just a little bit more like a garage door style. So it's not, you're not gonna see an overhead door when it's open in this interior space, it's just a vertical lifting type of window system. And I think that's important because it's really trying to connect to that public space. That's a very active parking lot. There's a lot of tenants, future tenants coming in. This space is going to be an active amenity for the area. There's also the pool and all that activity. So it's a way to, as Matt said, that we did look at taking all that out, right? And then once we looked at that and that actually the perspective that shows the artwork, we realized quickly that tree and that softening landscaping was really being missed. It was really too much hardscape for that area. So we brought back the landscaping, leaving it now. The renderings don't represent the future landscaping. We just aren't. It's digital computer work. So what you're seeing in the photograph will remain. But I think it really does soften that corner, but then allows that window system that opens up really does allow a little bit better connection to that area of the pool deck and the outdoor areas.
I do wonder, just going on with that, if the patio space right to the north of where that overhead or sliding window system is, it seems like that could, adding another sliding window system there could help with not only just cross ventilation, but also potentially with the function of that patio space out there, allowing it to be overflow space from that community room. Maybe making a little bit more sense to what David was referring to, and having, if there's an event happening in there, it's more like fluid to utilize that patio as well, rather than having to go out the front doors and back onto that.
Yeah.
So a major problem that we've been dealing with is that space is part of its leasable square footage. So that outdoor area is specifically for their use. And we've had instances of residents trying to utilize that space when really it is their patio space. So, our thought process here was really trying to activate this side and giving residents opportunities to take a cup of coffee out there and leverage that space, activate that side, which isn't really activated today.
I appreciate you trying to activate the space. I just think that having that, it might not be a garage door, it might be sliding windows, but it still acts as one where it looks like it's a doorway of sorts. And for people to use that, they would have to step over the bushes. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, to say that it's an activation and then no one's gonna use it. Like, no one's gonna, it's just there as a window. So why make it a door and put a window there when you can just keep the window and make the window something that.
Current window does not open storefront glass, so we're looking to keep it in a similar family of storefront, but allow that to be open, connect. I guess you have that the fresh air coming in, but also sound and activity connection.
I just think there are other places, elevation that would do better than one that has stuff already in front of it.
Any further, thoughts or questions? I was a little unclear, staff, you were saying that you were advocating for this portion to be continued as opposed to, or would some portion of this?
No, so what I mentioned earlier was for the landscaping portion, which I believe may actually be more involved in the following application, also at Jeffrey Park.
Gotcha. Okay, for that to be continued?
So that was initially proposed as just a conceptual, part of that application. Where the applicant did touch base, after the business meeting, because I thought there was, some positive feedback, and asked if it could be considered as an action item. But for our staff is recommending that the landscaping, for that application, so not this current one, still remain on this current agenda as conceptual, so the commission has a chance to look at it and review.
Okay, gotcha.
And come back.
Okay, but not this application, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I believe the landscaping is for the very next application, which would be number 10.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so, do you have anything else that, to clarify on, like, is there some kind of programming that we're not understanding that's going on in the actual, community center?
Yeah, so we're revamping that, like I had mentioned before, revamping the whole space. So currently the GZD office is vacant. And we're trying to make some substantial edits to our community space. So expanding the community center, the accessory use, currently, so it sits inside there today, is a Starbucks machine. So the thought process is maybe expanding coffee offerings to the people, the residents in the community, as well as expanding some of the leasing space. Right now, it's a pretty narrow hallway. So kind of the revamp and refresh of that whole area.
Okay, so commission, where are you at? Where is everybody at? What would we like to do today?
So let's continue.
Thoughts out here?
I would say continue.
That's for options for the opening, the window opening specifically, is that what we were? The things that we would want to see?
So with the window opening, I mean, during this process, it was just us trying to play with the idea of, like Pete had mentioned, to give something, other opportunities for, to help activate that side of the building. If that's something that isn't not seen as completely valuable, or something that doesn't allow us, that you all see as not being something that benefits this application, then I think it's not something that we have to move forward on. It's just something that we thought that would really help accentuate the space.
So you're trying to get the sound from inside to carry through that door. That's how you're using that door to activate it, this side of the building? Because there's a tree there, so you're not really activating.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's just, in the end, it's just a window. It's
Yeah.
just to be able to open up and
Yeah.
have a
How
connection.
about an idea of keeping your water table line? You've got those 3 or 4 rows of black brick. What if you just brought that straight on across, then set your window in and either do nano wall or an open window, something to get the fresh air? That's what you kept saying was the goal, not a passageway. I think that all of us are saying a full to the ground doesn't make sense. Develop it another way, show us another alternative.
okay.
But if you want fresh air in a window and it's fine, go for
It
it.
seems to make sense. And I guess the notion, some people had mentioned the idea of potential openings on the other side. That's, if you're interested in that, we'd want to see.
Just as a crazy idea, if the space is really for the community rooms, How about instead of doing a railing, a fence railing, you do a built-in banquette, a bench all the way around. So it only opens up to the community room after the overflow type idea you're saying, but it isn't accessible or doesn't become a beer stop.
Yeah, I mean, for this application, it was, I mean, for what we saw, like.
So that's why we're continuing it, to let you develop some other options, some other alternatives to this.
I think the challenges we have on this particular patio is the staff. And if the coffee service or coffee amenity that's provided to the residents is increased, a little bit more robust. The idea of the patio is it's, you know, something you can grab a cup of coffee and sit in a nice morning outside. I like the idea of the bench. I think that activates a little civic area, but I think the ownership was looking to do a little bit more kind of a private patio, and we looked at different options, but we just didn't have the depth to get all that to work. So this is where we landed. There are tables, there's the high tops, kind of bar seating at this little counter, but then there are two-seater tables all along the wall. So if you look at the plan, you'll see that there's different types of seating. You know, it's a nice place to, you know, check your email while you have a nice coffee on a nice fall day like like today. So I think this is kind of where they landed. I think there's 10 different options we can look at. But I think based on the location and trying to keep these kind of, you know, public and private and separated from the traffic and the pedestrian traffic walking by, we thought this was kind of the best option.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's some interest in continuing. It's really up to you if you want us to vote today or if you're unable to continuing the application in order to clarify some of those details that may make some of the commissioners more comfortable. So it is at your discretion.
And this is just a question, can the motion be made so that, you know, if the bulkhead is to remain because it's there existing and the window is to be shortened? Is that something that the board
We could break it into an A and a B, absolutely. So we're talking about south side. Nobody else spoke about the graphics, so maybe we ought to just touch on that.
Until you mentioned, I wasn't exactly sure that was part of this application.
Well, the south side will make as an A, and it's an understanding of not a doorway, but a open window solution to be brought back to staff or something for the final approval of that. But I think we're all in favor of that side, if it's not a literally doorway with a tree in it. We flogged that enough, okay? And then we go to the other side and suggest that those patio solutions be continued so that we can see how you make it more an extension of the community room, but not a retail location, continuation of a retail location. This is a neighborhood, not a thoroughfare.
So you're advocating a separate motion for the backside, is what you're willing to make that motion?
I will.
Okay. With those conditions, staff, you have all those noted for the backside, the transom or the knee wall and whatnot? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, keeping that water table or the knee wall and then adding an operable window.
Or some form of a knee wall, that'll give them leeway to look at that and determine what they want to do.
And you said that's to the satisfaction of staff?
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second on that side of the building?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, opposed, and abstentions? Okay, so it sounds like that's that side set. So then,
And we will take the remainder of the application and make it a continuation. Doesn't need a motion, we're just going to continue.
well, no, this is on the regular docket, so I don't think there is. But are you comfortable with us continuing that, the remainder of the motion? Or you can ask us, we'll vote on it today. Sounds like there's a lot of uncertainty at this point.
Yeah, I mean, with us, I think we can go back and maybe look at this side a little bit more, but to your previous comment, I mean, we are trying to expand the coffee opportunities, which kind of lean more on the retail side of things.
A brick wall with a stone slab that doubles as a bench to define that space and belong to the community room, I think could be a very interesting solution.
So something that's a little bit less see-through than.
Yeah,
what's
it doesn't look like the beer wraps or the liquor wraps for all the things on High Street right now. Patio type things.
Okay, so you made a motion to continue?
Yes,
And do I have,
the north elevation, north side of this application.
okay, and I think Lauren, you seconded it? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, great. Well, thanks, and we will see you back with, your next iteration. Great. Okay, now moving on, maybe the same,
Dickerson.
to 299 Dickinson. Robbie, you up for this one? Okay, we do have a new add to the theme. Rob, if you could state your name for the record.
Yeah.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this evening to the best of your ability.
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Okay, staff.
Okay, for 299 Dickinson Street, the proposed work, well, first noting that the basic massing scale footprint was approved at the March 2021 IBC hearing under application number IV-21-02-006. The applicant would like to construct a 5-story mixed-use building, including office, parking garage, community space, and apartments at the southern boundaries of the site. The apartment is to conceal the northern face of the garage and form a courtyard. The exterior materials are to consist of brick, horizontal and vertical formed metal panel, aluminum louvers, and wood soffits. The applicant has included landscape renderings for reference, but initially it was not proposing landscaping details at this time. At the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted that the project, they appreciated the changes that have been made to the project and that noted that the project overall is looking to be moving in a direction as was approved. And understanding that the landscape is conceptual and appreciate the way that the courtyard space is being set up. Staff recommends approval of application IV-21-10-016 299 Dickinson Street with any clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of the certificate. And that recommendation is based on the standards for new construction 3116.12.
Great.
Just for a quick history on this, we've been, coming before the commission for a year now on this project. We don't want to have anything approved in a bubble. So we made sure we looked in regards to the office, the garage, the amenity deck, the landscaping, the courtyards, and the parking garage. With that, we got approval on the garage and also the apartment garage and also the screening on the garage. With that, not doing it in a bubble, showing it all, the landscape and everything, we had great commissioner comment that led to the courtyards. We doubled in size, being more open to the facility, a little bit passionate to the building, a little softer, things like that. We had great comments. And one meeting that you spelled out, which is in the package on this agenda, we addressed all those items and we were met with great approval on it. We worked very hard on that and we'll continue to work hard on that. This is not approval on the landscaping, although the landscaping, we showed it in consecutive 3 meetings. It met with great approval. We showed in regard to the 2 art installation areas, the courtyard, how we're going to handle material, how we're going to pull people in. Commissioner Cook actually stated that he thought it was like a destination piece once we got the artwork in there. And then the way we were compassionate between the office and the apartment garage, to make them look like separate entities for that. So with that, we want to stay just with the wrap itself. I did include though the literature if you need to bring back to it in regard to landscaping. But of course, we'll be working with Pod Design on that, and coming back with full design drawings and detailing, stuff like that.
Great. Okay.
No, I think-
Architecture.
Well, I think, we can walk through the process. You have seen this, the residential portion of this project has not changed significantly in any way since the previous submissions and approvals for massing. We did do extensive design updates through that process with this commission. I think we reached a point where the commission was quite happy with the end result. So eager to see, now that it's back before you, eager to hear any additional comments you may have regarding it. But I think we really worked hard at breaking down on that. I mean, it's a larger wrap on the garage with the office. So we worked hard at pulling back the building a bit and opening up the courtyard to kind of accentuate the entry and tie to the future or the existing landscaped courtyard and amenities to the north on the overall building site plan, but also bringing that courtyard in and through the building and connecting to the second internal courtyard through kind of a covered open connector piece. One of the things I've challenged over the years is these kind of separate minor little micro courtyards and buildings. I think they don't get used enough, but so we're really trying to activate that and pull up to the park to the north through this area and then continue development around this site. So I think that's a really strong data point and a nice benefit for the overall community. Regarding the architectural design, I think it's, it's a modern residential building. It is a stacked multifamily building, and we try to break down that scale and the repetition that you find in these types of buildings through the articulation of the massing, but also the materials, colors, fenestration, and the balconies. So I think it has a great sense of scale. I think this is a great image to kind of show the connectivity at the end. This is kind of the end cap of the overall development on the southern end. I think it's a great way the way this is developed and connects to the rest of the development. It's kind of a great end cap. We are continuing to develop, and you will see future meetings, the 670 side of the garage. Of course, the garage has been approved, but there's the one item on that is the garage wrap and how we continue to develop that. You did see initial concepts on that, and those were received well. Obviously, the office building, something that we'll continue to be talking to you about. But I think on the residential side, we feel pretty confident that this is a very solid design and a good add to the community.
All right, let's hear some commissioner comments. So Paige, you want to start this one off for us?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I haven't been here for the previous discussions about it, so I'll be interested in what other people have to say. But I will just say I really appreciate, it sounds like you guys went through a lot of iterations to create those interstitial spaces between the buildings, and I think that's really strong and shows in the plans. And I just did have a question, the brick, as far as the rain screen, is that happening just on the ground level?
For the residential building, the brick is happening on the first floor.
And I was just also going to say I appreciate the siding choices with the kind of different colors and differentiating those recesses in the building. I think that's really strong as well to help those read and break up the massing.
I agree with everything that's been said thus far. I just have one question. In some of the renderings, the window mullions and frames and the wraps around the, shadow box around the long linear window are black. I think those are probably the more recent renderings. In other renderings, they appear white. So I was just wondering, what's the?
They are no longer white. So especially in the darker panels, they're black or dark gray.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's very nice.
Thank you.
David?
I think everything's moving in the right direction. So.
Lauren?
I have nothing to add. I appreciate the office space is very distinctive from the rest of the building. I think there's a lot of metal siding, but I'm not an architect, so I'll defer to that. So I'm okay with it.
So just to be clear, you are looking for approval on the building portion, not the landscape. Is that correct?
Landscaping will come in with full rendering, drawings, working drawings, that, everything else.
Okay, so.
And it'll also, if I go in there, that'll also be coming from the park itself. So we're gonna have the park, the connector, and we feel that the park, the connector, and the swimming pool should all be brought into one.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that sounds like the right plan. Okay, so everyone's aware that they're looking for approval on a portion of this today. Are comfortable with all the questions we've asked so far? Okay, in that case, can I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstentions. Okay, thanks a
Thank you
lot.
very much.
Look forward to Dang all the rest of it. Okay, so. Better to reload. You're angry at me.
5:45, so.
Okay, so we are to, before, are we to consensus yet? Oh, no, yeah.
We got one more.
We never did. I don't think anybody ever came in. I'm not sure. Did we arrive?
And we can circle back again. It is a renewal application, so it might be something that the commission can vote on anyway, but we can circle back if we get.
Sounds good. So let's go into 244 East Fourth Avenue. I have to abstain from this one. We'll pass it over to whoever is willing to take it. Sounds like you do. We're volunteering for it now.
Okay. Gentlemen, could we get your right hand and get you sworn in, raised, and state your name?
Logan Fitch.
Eric Sherrill.
And you both will commit to giving the truth and your best ability tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. We'll let staff introduce this.
So for 244 East Fourth Avenue, the proposed work is to demolish an existing shed, add a rear addition and renovation to the Fourth Avenue property, do construction of a new two-car detached garage. And the applicant also notes that this will require variances as well as a lot split. So the September 28th business meeting, the commission noted that the size of the addition still appears to be too large. And that some general commission comments from the previous September 14th, 2021 meeting was that the commission had asked about black windows on the addition elevation. And for the applicant, both homes are too close to the west property line to have window openings for the building code. And the existing building can retain those existing windows as an existing condition. They noted that proximity to the black lot complicates the roof line as well, and is the reason for the placement of roof lines. But can revisit the aligning wall and build as a fire safe wall. The commission asked if more space could be given to the chimney. The applicant has shifted the building slightly to give more space to that chimney. The commission also noted concern about the size of the addition, with the addition currently shown as larger than the historic home. Requested existing condition photos of the area, and noted that skylights visible from the street are typically not approved. And also noted that the design appears to be overly complex and could be simplified to relate to the historic neighborhood. And noted that although little homes will be surrounded by masses, it is still the point of preservation to preserve and be consistent. And that the commission understands the applicant would refine for the next meeting. So variances and photos of the existing shed will need to be submitted. And staff would just like to know that the proposed shingles are currently proposed as dimensional versus the standard 3-tab and improved shingles list, and have the faux wood shade appearance. And finally, the staff recommendation is to continue application IV-21-10-017 to allow the applicant time to revise the application and submit any required variances. And the basis for the staff recommendation is the 3116.12 standards for new construction.
Okay, gentlemen, you want to tell us what else based on the comments from the business meeting?
Can we kind of break the application into 2, maybe 3 parts? The addition to the building that fronts East Fourth, the garage, and then the addition to the building that faces Greenwood. That way we might be able to move forward with a
Okay, so let me restate that for you. The first one was the addition to the main building facing Fourth.
correct.
The second one, B, will be the garage. And C will be the addition to the elevator, to the building facing Greenwood.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah, that might give us the opportunity to move forward with the less controversial addition to the building fronting Fourth.
Okay.
So why don't we start there? I don't think there's been too much comment about that addition. It's fairly standard, normal size addition to a home in Italian Village. You know, we did discuss the roof lines and why they are the way they are. But I didn't recall that there were too many comments with regard, you know, kind of after the explanation. I did spend a little time looking at how to simplify it. You know, but I really I decided it was really best to keep it the way it was so that it could have the windows on the west side and then, you know, have its proximity to the property line the way it was.
Any comments?
I can, I guess, start and from the previous conversation is, I remember we talked about one of those windows on that side. I think the roof has kind of acts simply from the street front, and there's no really views where you're going to catch on to that that slight adjustment you have to make, which will, I think, add a lot to the interior space. So as far as that goes, I'm in favor with this.
Lauren?
I'm looking through it. I went to the meeting.
I think Paige pretty much covered it. I think we've seen this enough. And it seems like you've addressed most of our comments, all of our comments to the degree that you can. So I think that it seems to be headed in the right direction.
I don't have anything more on the A. Could I ask you for a motion then to approve?
Yeah, so should I call this the same number then when I have promotion?
You will, and we'll break it into, staff will break it into an A, B, and C. So it'll be the same application number, but we'll have motion A, which we have designated as the addition to the building that faces Fourth.
Okay.
So just to clarify, are we, is the commission also approving the shingles? I think they're, I mean, not from the approved list, so just want to make sure that if we are on record for any reason that we might be approving something other.
Could the motion?
We'll do an approved shingle.
Thank you.
To be noted. That may be another side.
As part of the motion, understanding that the shingles will be from the approved list.
Yeah.
That the applicant is agreed to selecting from the approved list. Okay, so
So motion to approve 21-10-017 with, sorry, A.
the number, and then we put the A behind.
Okay, sorry, yeah. With the condition that the applicant will consider using an approved shingle for this city.
Good. Do we have a second? Good. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. We'll now go on to the same number, but a letter B, and this is for the garage piece.
The same,
What page is that? Sure.
I'm looking for that. I know it was in the previous application. I don't see
Not
it.
seeing it.
I don't see it in my drawings for this current application either.
I can see it on the view looking east ever so slightly.
It's a, you know, flat roofed 20 by 21, 10
There
garage.
was some discussion about the garage door
That was,
spaces.
that was the duplex for Roby on the corner.
Okay, excuse me. There we go. Big new garage sitting in the middle. Do we have elevations with this tonight? But nothing has changed.
No, nothing has changed about that garage from the previous application.
Do you feel comfortable discussing it without the elevations?
And that's not attached to the end, is it? The previous.
It's just demolition.
No, it's a new garage.
You could bring up the previous materials from log. That might be helpful.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not sure why I didn't make it in there.
This is not. Yeah. Haven't changed.
While we're pulling it up, does that new garage belong to one or the other? Does it belong to the Greenwood?
So we're going to do some fancy lot splitting through the garage, where we'll have a party wall inside the garage in order to provide the required one parking space per parcel.
I would each enter from Greenwood.
That is correct. So, I mean, it'll look like a normal garage, it's just it has an invisible line cutting it in half.
Maybe September. This is 244 Eastbourne Avenue.
Apologize.
No, it probably has changed, so I will pull this up a little fast and see.
We can,
Is it an essential piece for you to move, or can we continue?
no, it really isn't.
No,
Okay.
we could go to C.
I'm going to recommend due to timing and
Yep,
other things.
That's
that,
fine. Yep, we'll move on. With regard to the
hang on
rear,
just a second, let's finish the business on B, and could I have a motion to continue the application? Second, please.
Second.
Good. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries to continue. Now let's go to C.
sure. So with regard to the addition to the building that faces Greenwood, we have reduced the elevation, I'm sorry, the size of the addition, with some significance from the previous application. We took about, I believe, 8 feet off of what I'm going to call the overlap of the existing building to the new building. There is still some overlap in order to achieve the program, but it's just a couple feet there, and it's primarily to get the headroom for the stair, kind of past the intersection of the two portions of the building. We have thoroughly simplified the roof line where previously we had a turned gable that was kind of above the connection. So, I understand that there is a thought behind, that the addition is larger, but in footprint, it's not. With regard to the skylights, it's a small, unique building. It's going to be buried in, in between larger buildings, as the lot to the west is vacant, and will likely get some kind of development that is similar to what's happened to the east.
But just clarify for me a minute, the skylights are going into the new construction or the existing piece?
The existing.
Because of the parameters of the building code, we couldn't have any windows on that elevation.
Okay. It is preservation guidelines because the older building or the piece is the original. understand that what could happen in the future is a consideration, but I think it's a very dangerous precedent to start doing that. We have historically in Italian Village not allowed skylights to be used in existing or contributed buildings, and this was determined to be contributing. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to speak to Paige primarily as a new addition to the commission, this commission board, to understand what we have done in the past, and then that sets up the precedents. Well, then somebody says, well, they did it, we get to do it. You're discriminating against us, et cetera, and so on. Okay, let's continue the discussion to hear what else, and then we'll go from there.
I believe that's about the extent of it.
And I know there was some discussion about the size of the house and massing. We tried to show the elevation, showing that this addition would not put this project out of sorts per se with the neighbors, especially with what's, I think, was approved with the duplex, with the garage in the corner, and future development right next door on the vacant lot. We feel that although the square footage of the addition is larger, if you were to take a step back on that north elevation, it wouldn't be doing that much compared to what's around it. Just again, food for thought.
And I mean, I think the other thing about that is that when the development of this street is complete, you really won't be able to see that addition at all from any angle beyond, standing in the driveway.
I think that's a legitimate point. I think we've got examples like Hamlet, where we have a number of cottages that have been reviewing applications to build larger structures, but they sit back farther enough that if you go down the street, it doesn't disrupt it. So I think that's understandable. I think, the little building, the fact that the building materials and shape of it are so different from the things that are next door to it on the moving up the street, that is a reason that it will stand out always as an older building, not one built in the last decade. I will now come back and ask you, will you remove the skylights?
I mean, if that's a hurdle to an approval, I would say yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I appreciate the pushing back of the addition to let the kind of quaint front facade on Greenwood read. I agree that now that it's pushed back, it won't feel as overbearing, and it lets that chimney breathe. And I think as far as along the lines of it being clearly a historic house adjacent to those more modern industrial types next to it, I think all of Greenwood is pretty sporadic in that way. And it's it's pleasant back there how it does kind of let those two different types be next to each other. And it almost lets them like speak louder, the historic buildings next to those newer industrial ones. And then as far as the width of, like, that is such a quaint little house. Is it only like 15 feet wide or something? I wonder if you are getting that light from, is that the south end? That there's existing windows shown, I think. So yeah, I think to go along with what David was talking about, the skylights do seem inappropriate in a historic building placement.
Okay. Comments?
The only thing I would add is, I'm in agreement about the skylights. I just think they're too close to the front. You see them, so we can't get away with passing that.
Yep.
I appreciate that you tried.
Everybody loves natural light.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is a thing when it passes back, but I noticed, is that the eaves, the roof lines are like where the roof meets the house, like one's boxed and one's open, so I don't know if that's something that we care about. Matching.
I think that,
Trying to think of what
That
to point out
that's happening on
Yeah.
the west elevation.
on the north elevation.
Yeah, where the eave on the front building is is kind of an exposed,
Yeah.
square,
If we're okay with that.
where the, yeah, I mean, I think part of that is that we hipped the rear, the addition in order to kind of respect the size of the front. I think it's a little more difficult to have the square eave when it's a hipped structure.
Let me see that. Well, that's all I have to bring up.
Brooke?
I have nothing to add. I agree on the skylights. I think it would be nice to have that light, but inappropriate on this existing structure. And good eye on the,
Well,
Okay, let's, I would take a motion to second the motion, even because I'm just acting chair, right? And then,
I think maybe for next practice, just for now, let's have,
I'll make the motion.
good,
and then also just.
with the understanding that the skylights are to be.
The wood look shingles are still proposed for the addition of existing home. And, just making sure that the shingles are used all around.
Make sure the shingles are approved.
Yeah, I just wanted, I know they're part of the materials package, and I just want to check if they are proposed for the addition or the existing historic building, just that the commission is aware.
We'll use, just like the front building, we'll use an approved shingle.
Right, and I don't want to stop your motion, but I just all of a sudden, talk to me about this. It says rear exterior garage wall sconce. Okay, so that's a new building, so you're using a new type of light. Are you going to replace anything on the old house? Can we get you to do something a little bit more traditional or in keeping with what would have probably been on the house? Is there one by the front door or?
I don't think there's anything existing on the exterior of the existing building. I mean,
Or do a can light or something under the?
yeah, I think that's what we're planning to do.
Covered porch. Good.
Yeah, we're gonna use downlight.
Don't worry about that then. Okay, let's go back to the motion that was partially made. I
Is
think
this
we have a
a-
motion to approve.
Okay,
the
motion to approve
addition.
IV-21-10-17C.
C,
C.
B was the garage.
So D.
B.
C. Okay.
As in boy,
B.
was the garage.
Oh, C.
Right.
C. Here,
It's getting late.
noting.
We
Noting
expired our
that
time. Okay.
we, do not accept the skylights. And, that the material selections will be in accordance with what's approved.
Approved standards. Would I have a second?
Second.
And we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. So in summary, you have approval on A and C, and we're going to continue B, which should fly very well next time because we're just wanting to check the plans.
Yep, and we'll need to come back for the variances anyway, so. we'll-
And that imaginary line in the garage. right?
It is.
Yeah, the variances in the garage.
And then why don't we also say that would be the appropriate time to bring back your selection of samples of files and everything, but that's not going to hold you up. That's just for the fact that we know that everything is Jacqueline approved.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Okay, so where are we now? Agenda.
We're number 13, that is both here. Well,
You 12, you're 12, okay.
Sorry.
it's all
See
good.
see you soon.
Commissioner Sudi,
I'll grab them.
is also a key.
I go ahead and take a seat.
You may,
This is
and
my first time doing this.
well, we welcome you.
Thanks. I
And
got here early. I learned a lot.
your address, please.
Sorry.
Your application address, street address.
Oh, it is on Summit Street. It is. 821 Summit.
We'll sign you in. We'll ask you to raise your right hand and tell us your name.
Tracy Parks.
Okay, Tracy, and will you testimony tonight that you're giving us be truthful and to the best of your ability?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so 821 Summit Street is a conceptual application. The proposal is to construct a 19 by 28 garage with a full attic to be 1,064 square feet total. The garage is to have a 12 pitch roof, 2 shed dormers, 1 on each side of the roof, 20 feet long each, 2.5 12 pitch, 1 foot overhangs on the main roof, 4-inch overhangs on the dormers. 4 windows are to be in each dormer. The siding would be hardy plank to be painted by the homeowner, and there's mention of dragon trim. Roof is to have Owens Corning dimensional shingles to match the house, seamless gutters and downspouts with hidden hangers. And they're proposing a 16 by 7 white garage door, 36-inch 9-light van door as well. At the September 28th business meeting, the commission reiterated the outstanding staff questions of clarifying what the term dragon trim refers, asked what the width of the alley is to understand the proposed double wide garage door, and noting that the proposed shingles are not from the approved shingles list, but instead have the faux wood shake look. So the commissioners, since it's a conceptual application, should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future Italian Village Commission meeting. No action is required. The general basis for the staff recommendation is the 3116.12 standards for new construction.
Okay, great. So what do you want to share with us tonight?
Sorry.
What would you like to share with us tonight?
Well, shingles, I want to talk about shingles. We did find a shingle on the approval list. The Owens Corning Estate Gray is the shingle that we want to use. And I guess I don't, oh, and dragon trim is Polonia.
I'm
So
sorry,
people just call it dragon trim.
and what is it though?
Polonia is, it's actually a wood. It doesn't rot. Bugs don't get into Polonia. Some people just call it dragon trim. It's a wood trim.
Could you confirm how to spell it?
Polonia?
Yes, please.
L-O-N-I-A.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's just another name for Polonia, is that dragon trim, and like I said, it is wood. And then I don't understand the question on the alley being proposed. There will be 20 feet from the furthest point of the alley. So the alley is actually 10 feet 4 inches. So then our apron will be 9 feet 8 inches. That's your turn into the oversized garage door, or the double, I guess, garage door.
Okay, so. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess.
It seems like we are missing some elevations. Elevations, if you're not familiar with it, is as looking at it, this is a very sketchy elevation, but
Yeah,
what we
my
don't
husband's
have.
kindergarten work, but yes.
Okay, so this would indicate to me that that's 2 garage doors. I think I heard you say you want 1. It talks about 4 dormer windows. We have no idea where the windows are.
Okay.
The dormers look somewhat out of proportion. Typically, a dormer doesn't come out to the outside line of the building.
Yeah.
So before you could even get a permit, you're going to have those drawings, and we need to see those.
Yeah.
So this would be the the reality of tonight is we would need to continue this because we don't have enough
So
information.
it's conceptual,
I'm sorry,
it's conceptual.
okay.
What
So
does that mean, if it's a conceptual?
is it a good idea? Can it be done? And we wouldn't send you down the avenue to draw elevations and pay for those if it wasn't a good idea.
Gotcha.
I think you're going to hear, we're going to say this is a reasonable solution. At least this commissioner is going to say that. But in order to finally approve it, we would need to see a photo cut from your garage door, from the manufacturer, to make
Okay.
sure it doesn't have windows or a lot of other rigmarole about it. And so that's a normal request.
Yep.
We'd want to see your placement of your windows in your dormers, and by the little sketch here, they're excessively not correct.
Yep.
Gutters and overhang on actually, I think you did give us that very well. I go back to page 3, that's pretty complete. But I think it says rubber roof. When I look at page 3, the indication of the dormer projection says rubber roof on top of it. I don't think that is appropriate.
Okay.
We would be interested in seeing any light fixture that you would put on the man door.
Yep.
And then our standard, normally approved, would be gooseneck lights over your garage door. I think you would want 2 on this facade would be appropriate. So you could show us a cut, magazine cut or a photo cut of the light fixtures.
And then I think the last thing is we'll need a site plan that shows where the garage is going to be located to scale, and then, how you're going to be entering and exiting that with regard to any pavement that'll be indicated on the site plan as well.
Like on the apron, whether it's concrete or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Put that on there.
right, specifically where the apron is to scale. So basically, you're gonna have to have someone draw you a site plan that has all of those things exactly where they will be in the world. So
Yeah.
that we can understand that that's what you're
Yeah.
proposing.
The garage, do you intend to paint it the same color as the house, or did you see it as another color?
The garage door was just gonna be white.
Okay. And the garage itself would be your blue on your house?
Yes, correct.
Okay. You just need to note that for the application.
Okay.
And, we've had certainly a lot of garages come before us over the years. So, you could probably just kind of go through the old agendas online and look at some of those applications to give you a sense of what typically gets submitted. And also who prepared those applications. There's a lot of them out there.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think, like I said, I got here a little bit early tonight, so seeing some of the other applicants and their stuff, their pictures and whatnot, that is, I learned a lot by coming a little bit early tonight.
Yeah, and clearly there's a wide range depending on what you're doing, but there are a lot of professionals out there that have brought packets in front of us before for garages, and it happens constantly. So there's certainly a lot of people in town that can help you get that pulled together.
Yep, that's great. So I think I have a good list of my to-do things. I would just submit them like I did on the initial application, just to be like, these are my additional photos and my additional notes.
So yeah, this would be a new application that you'd be submitting, so just another, you would include the application form as well. Since this would be an action item, or I assume it'd be an action item, or it could be new conceptual, that's up to you. So the other thing I just wanted to bring up for the commission, I know since if it is proposed as a double wide garage door, I wanted to check with the commission if it's typical for Italian village, like with the alley width, I know for German village and other historic districts, there's a certain width in which it's accessible, and so double wide doors are typically improved. And if that is, a direction the applicant wants to go, we can make sure that the commissioner provides feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, typically it's a narrow enough alley where maneuverability is difficult. I don't know if we've ever set an actual width, have we?
All the years I've been on this, we started out by definitely having a preference for the way that drawing is right now with two single doors.
Right, sure.
I think we basically, time and time again, approved double doors.
Yeah, particularly out here.
doors. So I think it's up to the applicant. At this point, the direction has been, it's new construction, it's not a modification of an existing one.
Now, let's see what other folks think here. Brooke, do you have comments?
Yeah. I don't think I do. I do have one comment. I was looking at the plan. I'm assuming that when you, this is just a comment. When you drive into the garage, as I'm looking at this plan, that your house is this way to the garage, correct? I'm
Yeah,
looking at
yes.
page 5 of your plan.
So the house, if you're asking, right, the house is at the other part of the property, the garage is at the end, you enter from the alley. Is that what you're asking?
Well, is the door, that door, does that door face the man door, not the
Yeah.
garage door? Does
The
that
main
face your
door is on
house?
the house side, yes.
Okay, that was
Yes.
all. That was all. I thought the house was at the opposite.
Gotcha.
I think something else to strengthen your application, and so I apologize, this has been said already, is just include photos of other garages on your street too, so we have, it's already there.
Okay.
And better assess scale.
It's a good point, Richard. So,
Yeah.
is it appropriate to make a motion to continue?
Yes, I know motion needed.
It's conceptual.
Because it's conceptual, okay, we're good.
Hey, anything else you need from us today?
No, I appreciate all your guidance and, I'll gather my stuff that I have on my list. Now, did I understand that I need to do a whole new application?
Yes, you would submit a new application form just in the same way that you've done previously to that same IBC at Columbus.gov email. It's included within all of those materials. If you want to, do it, submit as an action item. You do have the option to submit again as conceptual if you want. If you want to receive, further feedback before moving forward. Sometimes people like to have more feedback before spending, a lot of time and money on drawing. So it's just up to you.
And then, if need be, I can come back and see you all again?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
How this works, right?
We're here every month, like it or not.
And you certainly know
See you
Ben,
all again then in a
you
month.
certainly know Ben Goodman, correct? Your neighbor.
Sorry,
You know Ben Goodman, your neighbor.
I don't.
Okay. He isn't here this evening, but he would always be a good person to touch base with as a neighbor. He built a new garage behind his house, and so that could tell you a lot, I think.
That's perfect. Good information.
Thank you.
All
for
right,
saying
thanks a lot.
that.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Yep, absolutely.
Last one to know.
Okay, up to number
But we
15.
have still a couple that didn't show it.
We have one that didn't show up. Everyone's.
I have to abstain from this one as well, so, just let me know.
Goodbye.
When you're ready. Come back and we can try and wrap up first.
Is there one other piece of business of the old business or something that was a staff report or something is down below on the agenda?
It should not be.
Okay, maybe I read it wrong.
It should just be.
Just checking.
That one application, the very first one to circle back to.
Okay, so since the applicants have already been sworn in, we'll allow them to give us an update on this. And after you say anything from the business meeting.
Yeah, so for 186 Eastbourne Avenue, this is conceptual. The proposal is to construct a single-family home through and within the existing block garage structure that faces Eastbourne Avenue and to demolish the rear portion of the existing building. They're also be using a lot split to create 2 new parcels. A new single-family home will be constructed facing Greenwood Ave. So the September 28th business meeting, the commission requested a drawing showing what's going to be demolished of what exists now, and asked about the existing roof structure of the historic building and how this would connect to the new building. The commission also noted that the proposed structure is very large compared to the historic structure, rather than truly adapting the historic structure. And so this application was also previously reviewed, I believe, conceptually at the June 2021 Italian Village Commission. And at that time, the commission had thought that the existing garage was historic and contributing, and that it was a unique building along East Fourth Avenue as well. The commissioners had suggested the applicant look into adaptive reuse, and commissioners were also supportive if the garage was used as a garage with the house fronting East Greenwood Avenue. Commission noted the overall height of the proposed house on East Greenwood was too tall. The height of the house would need to be lower to fit in with the existing houses along the street. The commission also noted that while they supported the garage in East Fourth and the house on East Greenwood, they could not support the middle central building that was previously proposed. And a center garden area was suggested in that spot. So this is a conceptual application. So the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review in the future Italian Village Commission meeting. So no action is required. And the general basis for staff recommendation are the standards, are the standards for demolition 3116.14 and 3116.12 standards for new construction.
Who would like to start the discussion?
Can we start the discussion? Maybe this is another scenario where we'd like to discuss the proposal in two parts. And we'll start with maybe the less controversial one again, which would be the two-story building that is facing Greenwood, that would be on the new parcel that is created by the split. That is on sheet probably towards the end, A21. There you go. So again, this is a fairly standard new construction. The garage is in the rear. That would be kind of in a shared maneuvering zone between the two parcels. The the Greenwood elevation is a fairly standard lap siding with windows, hip porch. It's actually kind of modeled off of what was approved at Say Avenue a handful of months ago. That we talked about. So I guess just I know that there's no action on this application, but I guess whether or not this is an appropriate solution to the rear portion of the project.
So you've done a good job identifying the A part, but let's stay with the story and look at, now go to B and explain your thought of it with this.
Okay, so B would be the front building. So the method to the madness for the front building is really the programmatic desires to have a larger building than what would be achievable in an adaptive reuse of the existing structure. So rather than taking the building and trying to reuse the building, we wanted to honor its existence as more of an architectural folly, so that it maintains its presence on the street, but is reused in an entirely different way. So now the existing garage walls really become garden walls with the existing doors and windows becoming empty punched openings. Imagine looking through those existing openings and seeing trees growing through that window, that are a part of the landscaped courtyard of the new house that we're building. I believe the dimension is 12 feet behind the existing garage wall. I think partly what this does is, maintains the uniqueness of the existing structure, but overlays a residential use that is more in keeping with the development pattern of this particular area. And in, kind of a size of, floor plate that is fairly consistent with other recent single family homes. Part of the inspiration of this was there's a duplex condo that's on an alley. I'm trying to remember.
Prescott?
It's like Cossett or another K name. Is it her?
No, I'm asking.
Oh,
You said K.
Go off, you're heading east on Hubbard from High Street, you hit Kerr,
Mhm.
you'd go north,
Mhm.
and whatever that alley,
yeah.
Whatever
it's
that
kind of
alley
at the
is.
corner of two alleys.
if you're on Kerr or Kerr heading south,
Take it until the dead end.
you go
dead
left,
ends
there's
into
some
Prescott.
quaint single-family brick homes on the left, and then there's this rehabbed warehouse where they kept the original facade and turned it into garden space.
That's
Heard
Prescott.
it. Was that Prescott? Okay.
Prescott.
Yeah, that's a different project, but yeah, I mean, that one's kind of, along the same lines.
That's the frosted
They did
glass
frosted, yeah.
garage doors on the front, the long walkway, that's the Prescott.
Yeah.
Just in terms of kind of reusing. This was I think it's a mechanic shop
Mhm.
for the longest time.
It was a plating.
Okay. Just to keep, because again, I don't think that facade would ever be approved through the commission. So kind of giving credit and keeping what was historic about it.
So,
And then, so, I mean, just to kind of wrap up, the architectural style of the building behind it, is definitely more modern, more contemporary in order to, definitely react to create a juxtaposition between the existing use. To answer the question about the portion of the building that is being demolished, it's about, it shows up on the plan. It's about 2/3 of the direction is always funny. 2/3 of the west wall, most of the rear wall, and then if we can keep the east wall, we plan to for that extent where the new building and existing overlap, but it's likely that just through the process of construction that it'd be very difficult to keep it up. And now we'll take your thoughts.
right now, this is consensual.
That's correct.
Okay. The applicant asked us to discuss it in an A and a B situation. A was the two-story piece facing Greenwall. Would you like to start that?
I appreciate that the style of A kind of took cues from other houses on that street. Was this the house that
That's what we're
we
talking
were
about.
concerned about in the business meeting as far as?
The first proposal was a tall, narrow, 2.5, almost 3-story building. So I'm not sure whether it was business meeting or previous versions or.
Both the previous and the business meeting, so it's for the house behind the historic building and then demoing into the historic building.
Yes, I guess my question is, without kind of seeing the streetscape, where does this house compare maybe to what's there already? Is it closer to the rest of them now, or is it still a bunch of?
We can provide a street view in a follow-up. The intent would that it would be fairly similar, but you know, it probably gets a little bit taller just because we're using 14-inch joists now instead of 2x10s or 8s. So it's gonna get a foot taller. We could sink it in the ground if there was a big concern about a foot or 16 inches. We're probably also increasing the first floor height or the volume, so that pushes it up a little bit in comparison to some neighboring homes.
Oh, yeah, right. But they do. So I'm curious to see kind of how that compares, and I understand that. Right.
Sure.
Smaller, just because again, it is still a smaller streets, there's not a whole lot of houses there, so it would stand out.
I don't think in relationship to its neighbors, that it's going to be obscenely tall, as you say. So.
And I have a follow-up, and this is just like a small, on your west elevation, you have, what looks like a patio of sorts. But when you look on the Google, there's a lot of vegetation on that. Are you planning on removing that? Or is it just fill into that patio? And just kind of like look at that.
Ideally, if there's anything that's salvageable in that screening there, if it's on property line, if it's outside of the extensive construction that can be saved, then that would be ideal to be able to have some mature green screening, to surround the house, but it's likely that just through processes of construction that roots are going to get damaged, or trees aren't actually on the property line, things like that.
I guess for just talking about part 8 for now, the trees was something that I was gonna bring up. Just, it would be nice to maybe see more of a site plan, and how this relates could also help with that, height conversation to see how close or how far it is from its neighboring houses. But I would agree that a couple of feet isn't a huge disaster, but like she was saying, like anything obscenely tall, it'll be nice to see that as far as how close it is to its neighboring house and those front elevations. But the overall style and like window treatments and materials and water table height and everything seems appropriate. For
I have nothing to add to part A.
Okay, so obviously we would talk about continuing this, but we're requesting a street elevation showing existing building.
It's essential anyway, but that can certainly be part of the feedback.
Okay, and I agree with the site plan showing existing vegetation that could be maintained. Okay, and then we'll go to the B portion. Lauren, would you like to start us off on that?
I didn't start last time.
Okay.
You're doing a good job.
I would not like to start on this one now.
I can go. I guess I'll first say that I'm pretty interested in the creativity behind keeping this front facade and kind of repurposing it. A big question, I think a part of that would be like how well this will be able to be structurally sound once you remove portions of this building. And how, like you are suggesting, to keep this intact and once you remove some of those structural elements from the back of the building. And then, but I appreciate the creative way that you are repurposing and creating that courtyard. The house beyond, I think, in order to let that front facade speak, could be simplified. Whether that's in like, it looks like there's a lot of maybe material changes. I appreciate what you're talking about, making it more modern to stand against that front facade, but I wondered if the simplification of it could do the same thing. But yeah, I think the kind of add to this street specifically as well. It's right across from like 7-7 stuff, is that correct? And there's that other garage bar on the corner there. So I think taking some liberty with being creative in that solution would be a fun element on the street.
For the historic building, are you planning on, and I apologize before you said this, are you planning on changing the materials of the primary facade?
No,
Okay,
no, we plan to, brace and support, resupport the, existing sod. We haven't quite gotten to the point where we're really evaluating it from a structural standpoint, but, you know, I think there are discussions kind of internally about even maintaining a couple of the existing wood trusses as, you know, kind of part of that folly to remain. If, you know, when we start to really dig into that and those materials are not the type of material that can remain exposed to the weather, then that's just something we wouldn't be able to do. I mean, there's a lot of kind of discovery that needs to occur. You know, if the commission is open to, you know, this general idea of using the existing building as a folly, then, you know, we'll really start to dig into those things. We just didn't know how this would be received in terms of its general idea. So didn't spend too much time like really digging into how structurally sound the existing wood trusses would be if exposed to elements, or whether they can be rebuilt, reinforced. I fully would expect that we'll have to probably put some steel pilasters in the ground next to the existing masonry walls to support them laterally, take wind loads, things like that.
I think what we're all recalling is the Exile fiasco, where the whole facade of the building fell on the sidewalk. So let's don't see that happen again. I think that's fine. We'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, watching time, really, people, let's try to quickly come around.
Okay, yes, I agree with all the comments made thus far. I think it's a great concept, your solution for the existing building. But I too agree that the new building could be much simpler and still be very modern, and pay actually more tribute to the existing building that you have. But in general, the concept I think is really interesting. I'll be anxious to see how this develops.
Hey, I didn't want to cut you off. Did you have other comments or?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
it was me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just gonna say, I asked because this commissioner would prefer that you, the things were, and also on page 5, your elevations, it's showing as some sort of siding. So.
Okay. Like on the east elevation.
On the south elevation.
And the
And
east, yeah.
east and east, yeah. So, yeah.
The gold.
Thank you for confirming.
Sure, yes.
And real quick, yeah, just after, what Brooke was talking about, if you agree with this, I think the, main piece of simplification is from that south view,
Yes.
where that from is.
Is the relationship of the height of the building, I mean, there's some program that we're trying to fit on the site that, you know, is pushing the height up a little bit. You know, part of what maybe is complicating the front of this building is the roof line and trying to keep, some kind of relationship to a two-story building with a dormer. And maybe that's just not an appropriate solution if the height of this building is generally acceptable, maybe the roof line, maybe the attempt at having a second story eave is just not necessary.
Maybe while you're already providing the street elevation for the opposite end, you could.
Yeah.
As well, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, yeah, to that point, I wonder if even just, roof from the south elevation would give you more room for the, instead of needing a dormer, then you would be able to have that natural light and everything. But yeah, I think just like the change in materials too, and yeah, the job in the roof line, and yeah, it's just simplifying, but I'm sure there's a million ways to do it.
There's a lot going on. Like I'm shaking my head.
Just a couple more comments real quickly. I think the retention of the existing building used in the way you're talking about is brilliant and is really the artful novelty that the Short North should have 100% in favor of. However, it's this that the roof is doing from the sides in this neighborhood. If we are following our preservation guidelines of things being respectful or compatible with the neighborhood, I don't see how this thing is going to work at all. The whole series of Columbus Public Libraries recently with let's torque it, and we don't need that in this neighborhood, especially with the other new house that you're talking about in the A part. I don't see that this is going to be a friendly neighbor in the way it's rendered right at the moment. So let's also look for and ask for a street elevation of this one, including the elements when you come back next time.
Okay.
Okay. I think that should do it for tonight.
Just that one you might have circled back to at the beginning.
Well, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you
Thank you.
for staying with us. Which one would you like us to?
Do we do 9 minutes?
Thank you.
I want to bring this one up, and then we should have Commissioner Sudi into.
Let him take over. If you see Jason out there, would you send him in? And we are alive and broadcasting, but hopefully for not too much longer.
That's the first one, right?
Yep, exactly right. All right, so this first one, the applicant submitted an application. It was originally reviewed as 280 East 4th Avenue, and it was reviewed as, or approved as application ID-17-4-15. The original address that they had submitted for what it's supposed to be nowadays staff realized that should be a different address, so it should be 281 East Greenwood Avenue, which the agenda now reflects. Now, the applicant has requested that this application still be renewed, but they noted that they plan to come back for the other application, which is what is currently 287 East Greenwood Avenue. That makes sense.
So what are they actually asking for today?
They're asking for renewal. The confusion came about in that the current address did not match the
Yeah, I got it.
application that was renewed. Now, they are adjacent to each other, so it's pretty easy to get them mixed up, and they're both lot splits, both approved the same year. I think they, maybe not quite the same month, but similar timeframes, similar applicant. They asked to, yes, go ahead, review this application, or please keep it on, and then they'll come back for the other one to review that application as well. They're both for approving new construction. Both were originally approved in 2017, and that's why it's on the agenda. It's just been too long for staff to be able to renew as a staff approval.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gosh, it goes back to Randy Black.
So we're back.
And of course, we can continue if the commission feels more comfortable doing that, since the applicant is not in attendance. But since it is renewal, it's something we can visit, and then the commission can decide on what he feels.
Love the weird window placement on the side, across from the front, but I don't know. I mean,
2018, that's over 3 years, so let's bring it back.
yeah, I'd be curious to go down that street. It feels like most of the houses that have garage doors on that side have a more temporary look. And again, apparently we approved this at some point. Just, it is a little weird to me that it's basically like, it's almost like a regular Italian village facade that then instead of a first floor, just has a garage door. Looks a bit weird to me. So,
Now, it is, I want to say, mostly constructed, just.
it was mostly constructed?
Yes, so it was approved, and they're coming back because they.
They just didn't finish construction.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's different.
Stuff here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not gonna change anything from it. So it's that one right there, the White House?
It's a little to the left.
Yeah, that one, the White House?
Not that one with the great big garage.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's the one next to the flat roof building.
gotcha. Well, I mean, if it's at that point, then, I mean, there's nothing really fundamentally change on it, so. I'm okay, but was everybody else?
They paved the whole yard, is that gravel? Or is that not their lot? Looks like a driveway between the two, the house and the thing, then they covered the whole front yard with concrete.
Yeah, with you.
That
Doesn't look right.
It shouldn't have been.
It doesn't seem
We'll
like,
double check this out.
that does not seem appropriate.
And then something I was thinking about, afterwards is if this is continued, maybe it'd be easier to have the applicant submit photos of what is there now, just to confirm that it matches.
Yeah, at least on this site plan, there's an indication of what looks to be a driveway that is certainly not extending beyond the edge of the building. That's on the second page.
Shared drive easement.
Where are you seeing that?
Page 2, bottom. The shared drive easement.
See it, gotcha. So it says shared drive easement and it says concrete drive on the front, huh? I see what you're saying. I will say it definitely looks like it's hard to tell from this drawing. At least it looks like the initial intention was not to connect those together, which it seems like they've done. Like it seemed like there was gonna be a strip of landscape
Well,
in
you're
between
missing
there.
a site, not on this.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Lauren just pointed it out. It's on the bottom one right below that. Charity Drive.
Provided for.
Just, it seems to imply with that being in that area, that little spot to the side, that there would be at least a little bit of landscaping in between that drive. Apron. Hard to tell. Definitely doesn't look right.
Seems like there might be a question of some discrepancy in what was approved.
Yeah, I think that's just like, yeah, kind of tells what's going on, because it really is in the concrete for a front yard. Eesh. Okay. So do we have a motion to continue? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right, sounds good on that one. Anything else, staff, we need to know?
No, I think we just need a motion to adjourn and then we'll be good to go.
Good.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned. All right, thanks, everybody. Oh, by the way, I did find the spelling of that wood. It's not spelled the way that the applicant thought it was.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It is PAULOWNIA, which admittedly is a tough one.
It's also in some sense.
POLO? Okay, POLO. Gotcha.
Are you all familiar with that?
I mean,
I'm not.
Could be a first for time about it, didn't it?
I guess I understand why they call it dragon or whatever. One of these